You may have never heard of this financial report. Many have not. And I'm not sure why, but many of accountants either don't point it out to their customers or maybe don't provide it, but it's the general ledger. Now, hang on. You're all probably aware of a profit and loss, the balance sheet, but the general ledger is the detail that makes up all those numbers. And the reason it's the most important, most crucial report that's impossible to not have if you have a profit and loss is that it's telling you where the money went, item by item, vendor by vendor, amount by amount, the date of each, as well as what money came in. See, looking at a P&L, a profit and loss, it tells you your gross, your cost of goods sold, your direct expenses, and your fixed expenses to arrive at a net. Well, how do you know that it's actually correct? Easy. Look at the general ledger. Got to have a great accountant? I don't know. Here's the deal. If you are now looking at this general ledger, you're going to know if the numbers are right. A great accountant is not somebody that can bean count well, because that's just software. See, when you look at a bank statement, in, out, money. Now, when you look at a P&L, it's put it into categories. The money in, what was revenue, what was a loan in or contributions from the owners. Money that left, was it an expense? Did it pay a loan? Did it go to pay out distributions? Did it buy assets? But it's putting it in categories, the balance sheet and the profit and loss. In a category doesn't give you any details. And you may say, well, I've got an accountant, I would assume they know what makes up what. Okay, great. So here's the deal. To ensure that you're paying the right amount of tax, no more, no less, you want to look at that detail to say, okay, what was included in my gross revenue? What was included in advertising and telephone and payroll? Are those the items that actually show up there? More importantly, looking at the general ledger of the items that are not on the balance sheet. Assets, paying off debt, distributions, making sure that those aren't items that should be expensed. So ask for the general ledger, look at the general ledger, and when you're now looking at that detail, you now will know your numbers. And that's the number one thing to do all the things that you're hoping to do with your business. Grow it, ensure you're spending the right amount of money, no more, no less, but more importantly for your tax advisor and the great accountant is that they then will be able to interpret that into what do you owe for tax? And then what can you do about it? How can you plan? How can you strategize? See, a great accountant is going to walk through the balance sheet, the profit and loss, the general ledger, and show you how the numbers were arrived at. You know, my son joining my practice and now has been doing bookkeeping for clients for a number of years now. What he's really learned is us doing the books for a client, we're never going to have the same knowledge as the client. There's a lot of vendors that when you pay them could be a lot of different categories. Was it for equipment? Was it for office supplies? Now, all of that being said, what you want to make sure is that you understand the numbers, and that general ledger is going to get you there. So ask for the general ledger. All right, hey, many of you are looking for somebody to work with throughout the year that's going to help you with these things every time that you need it, want it, or even when you don't, telling you when it's time to pay attention. There are key times throughout the year, always looking at these numbers. So when you're now hiring an advisor and walking through these things, you have to ask questions. You have to stay engaged. You have to be more interested. And a lot of you may have a tax accountant, so to speak, or a tax advisor, but they're not really proactive with you. Now, you need to try, you need to call, you need to try and figure out with them what else can you do. But see, there's really two roles that you're looking for. Somebody that can put it on the tax return, but more importantly, where the value is, okay, do we have the right numbers? What do those numbers mean? And is there anything we can do about it? So for many, they have found a resource, and that is with a tax consulting group that I have put together. So if you got any interest in that, take a look at the link below. All right, hey, Thanks for tuning in. I'd love it if you'd subscribe. And then don't you ever forget, you've never met a business owner quite like you, and you've never met a CPA quite like me. You have a great one.